It's Bitcoin, y'all. I'm your host, Zoom Out. Here to talk to you today about Bitcoin mining. Try to explain this in some simpler terms so that it doesn't seem so complicated. And so let's start with Bitcoin being a money. So the creators of Bitcoin, we don't know who they were. They're anonymous, but it could have been one person, could have been a group. But what they did was they created a money that has a record attached to it. So it's using blockchain technology. So you have each block has transactions in it. And those transactions are verified and they're published in a chain so that you can look and see and make sure that nobody is counterfeiting money. Nobody is double spending their Bitcoin. So that's the value of the blockchain. And then there's a means to transfer the Bitcoins. So there's a network that you can move it from one person to another. So it's a peer-to-peer money, meaning that you can easily transfer it from one person to another as long as you both have access to the internet. Then instead of, it might seem intuitive to worry about, if you're talking about a money, the value of it. But what the creators of Bitcoin chose to do was to ignore that. They were not interested in trying to set a price for how much the Bitcoin were. Instead, they wanted to build a system that focused on more fairly distributing the money in a random way that would allow for anyone to have equal access to the system, regardless of who you are and what you're doing, with literally no centralized power or entity to decide who gets what. So the point of Bitcoin as a money and as a decentralized internet money is that it's spread out among people from all different walks of life, from all different places in the world, and that anyone has access to the same odds, the same chance of getting distributed the money as someone else. So let's break this down a little bit. The policy of Bitcoin is that there will only be ever 21 million Bitcoin. There is a mining mechanism called proof of work that allows for a random chance lottery. I'm going to go into this in a minute. A random chance lottery for getting the right to publish a block of transactions and then get paid the reward in Bitcoin. That reward that's paid cuts in half every 4 years. Currently it's 6.25 Bitcoin. A couple years, it's going to be the end of 4 years. It's going to be half of that, right? 3.125. And then in 4 years after that, it'll cut in half. It does this all the way till the last Bitcoin is mined, which will be in about 120 years. 19 million of the Bitcoin have already been mined. So it took 13 years roughly to mine 19 million Bitcoin, and it's going to take 120 years to mine the last 2 million, because the amount that's mined cuts in half every 4 years. So let's talk about this mining Bitcoin for a minute. Here's what it is. You've heard people say it, it's intense mathematical equations that these computers are built to solve. But what gets left out is that when the computer solves a mathematical problem, it doesn't do anything other than enter them into a lottery, a game of chance. So here's the game. The game is if you get less than a certain number as an answer, then you win the lottery. So let's think about it like if you had a scratch-off lottery game and you had numbers underneath the scratch-off 1 to 1,000. And when you scratch it off, if it's less than 50, then you win. You win the lottery. Now build a machine that has one job and one job only, and that is to scratch off these lottery tickets as fast as possible. Every time you hit less than 50, you win. And in this example, you win the right to publish a block of transactions to the blockchain, and you get paid a reward in Bitcoin for that. Now, if more machines started scratch-off tickets, then it would happen more often that someone would get less than 50. So every 1,600 games, every 1,600 wins, the system's going to recalculate. It's going to target a winner every 10 minutes. So if winners are happening every 5 minutes, then that number is going to adjust down. It might go down to 30. Whatever it is that would get it back to 10-minute block times, it's going to adjust. So if in that analogy for Bitcoin, these machines are built to do these really intense mathematical equations. So when you take a number, when the machine takes a number and plugs it in to to that equation, it produces an answer. The machine doesn't know. These things are so complicated that the machine doesn't know what the answer is going to be until it plugs a number in. Now, if it plugs the same number in again, it's going to produce the same answer. These machines are built to plug a different number in over and over and over and over and over again. And what you're doing is they're just hoping at some point, if it gets less than whatever the value is that you're trying to get less than, you win the lottery and you get to publish a block of transactions, and then that machine gets paid in Bitcoin. That's it. So that happens, and they target every 10 minutes. So there's been instances in the past where you've seen a buildup of more miners coming in and starting to mine Bitcoin over time. And so over time, it's gotten harder and harder, meaning the number has decreased that you have to get less than. And then last year, China shut down all of its mining. It banned it. So all of a sudden, all these miners, there was a lot of them in China, just went offline. They weren't mining Bitcoin anymore. Now all of a sudden, it's taken more than 10 minutes per block on average, because it had adjusted up with all these miners. The number had adjusted down, it had adjusted harder, and now there's less miners mining. And what you saw after 1,600, that's the number that they chose because it's a big enough sample size to be statistically significant. But anyway, after 1,600 wins, was that rate, the value adjusted down, and it became easier, and you got back to 10-minute blocks. So this has been proven to work in cases of steady increase. It's also been proven to work in a case of, boom, there's just this huge, decrease in miners. So it works. And again, that's the point of Bitcoin. The point of Bitcoin was to create a system that controlled the distribution, that made the distribution of the money random, so that one government or one person or one group of people couldn't take it over. It's put a hard cap of only 21 million to ever be created. They're going to be released at a set rate that divides in half every 4 years. And those are the things that can't be changed. That's what Bitcoin is. It exists in that form now forever. So mining Bitcoin is not, these mathematical equations that are being solved are not a part of the system of publishing transactions. They enter you into a lottery to be able to win randomly the right to publish the transactions and then get paid. Last thing, and then we're going to move, and then I'm going to be done with this video, is that there are things called mining pools. So, quick disclaimer, this is not advice. If you decide you want to mine Bitcoin and get into it, it's pretty expensive, the machines, and then and there's an energy cost attached to it. So do your own research. But the likelihood, if you had a mining rig in your house, this machine, the likelihood of you winning is really low. It's like 1 in a million. So if you were to, there are these things called mining pools, which you can join. So you don't have to be right next to the rigs. It can be miners from all over the world. And you can join. And then if you are a part of a group of miners and one mining rig in that group wins the lottery, then it wins the right to publish the blockchain. But at this point, you've signed a contract among yourself that you're going to split up the Bitcoin that's paid as a reward. So it increases the odds that you will have some income coming in from doing that. There's a lot of information out there about different types of mining pools, how they work, and it's way more complicated than I want to go into. My goal was to hopefully just explain to you that Bitcoin mining is not some magical thing. It's just a game that's designed to be in a way that it's random, that it gives the next one person and the next person the same chance at being a part of the distribution of the money and being the first people to get their hands on the money. All right. Thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more. And yeah, I'll be back.